something that I was going to say was better than ever.
Better than ever is our
Paying
ability.
bills is better than ever because you don't have to do anything.
Better than ever.
Is it better than ever?
It's better than ever because
I'm like, I'm gonna make everything better. It's
Absolutely,
awesome.
it's better than it's ever been.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is our,
Yeah.
we're gonna be thankful
Better
for
than ever.
things.
Even if you use
That's
better
right.
than ever.
Are you good if I lean forward?
You can do whatever
It's
you
my
want.
thinking
You can do
stance.
that. You're thinking. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes on the podcast, people are like leaning back. You know, like their body
yeah.
language is kind of
It's
maybe defensive or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Scared.
Was it? Am I making this up? Was it your wedding that had the little kid that was the little stripper?
Yes.
That was. Yeah, I tell that story a lot, and I was like, I think it was Lee's.
Yes.
In the little cry room back there, and he
Yes.
started like taking off
He
his clothes
saw
and everything.
it was a mirror because it was a mirror back to him.
Oh, got it. Yeah. So he was having some fun.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the
With
way
himself.
the way the sanctuary was set up, like me and Krista were over there because she was about to
Yes.
sing like way over on the side, and I could see him over there, and
Yes.
then not everybody could, and I was just like, oh man, I was having trouble concentrating. But anyway, it was a beautiful day.
Yes.
But that's what I most remember about
Well,
that.
what's funny is all the groomsmen could see it, the bridesmaid couldn't.
Yeah.
And so
they
all
were
the
like-
groomsmen were laughing.
They were like cracking up.
And all the
That's awesome.
bridesmaids were, teary-eyed, I guess.
And they were probably mad that the guys weren't taking it serious or whatever.
Yeah.
These guys.
Until we
yeah.
figured out why everybody was laughing.
Right. There you go. Dr. Lee Long, we're doing this.
We're
like
doing
the
it.
stars aligned, and we're here in the same
Yes.
town in this blessed town of Abilene, and it's 103 degrees. For the forecast is like this
for 10 days,
cut and
15.
paste. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I have a thankfulness journal, and I wrote last night like one day closer to mid-September.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. We're pushing through.
I like it.
Well, welcome to the podcast. Tell us, you're a therapist. So how did you get to be a therapist? And while you think about that, I'll say this. Sometimes I look at a job and I'm like, I'll be pretty good at that. Like, I know I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think about a therapist and I'm like, I would not be good. I would be like the worst therapist in the world.
Why do you
So
say that then?
I just don't. Sometimes people, by the way, there's a card for your daughter. There's a card for Molly. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
that was my mission to give that to you right there. So there it is. There it is.
Done.
Yes.
Mission accomplished.
I guess it's that I'm sure you've seen that video of the husband and wife talking, and the wife has the nail in her head.
Yes.
And she's like, I just feel like I have a headache. And he's like, well, just fix this right here.
Yes.
And sometimes people just want to be heard, or sometimes like I was talking to, on this podcast, I was talking to a physician, a surgeon, and he's like, well, sometimes people just want to know this isn't cancer. And they don't even want it fixed. They just want to know, like, this isn't what my granddad had or my dad had or whatever.
Right.
And so just, I guess, validated or listened to or things like that. And so I just feel like I would be bad. I would be very bad. And not to mention just like the literal fact of listening that much. Because surely you spend like hours a day listening.
And that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
But I probably talk more than the average therapist.
You talk. All
Yeah.
right. That's good. Yeah. So
why did I get into this field?
yeah.
Or how?
How did you get here? Yeah.
If I go all the way back, and I'll be brief with this, at 5 years old, and I remember it was because it was my 5th birthday, I told my mom, I said, I really think God wants me to work for him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And she said, great, like a preacher? I was like, oh gosh, no. No, I think I'm supposed to write another book to the Bible. And right, that was her reaction too. It's
She's
like, whoa.
My son wants to start a cult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh no.
So I started therapy. No, I'm kidding. But I've always been intrigued. One, how God works, how humanity works, and how God moves through humanity. And so why people do what we do, that's been so intriguing to me. I mean, I was the kid in high school looking up like body language books.
All right.
And just trying to understand humanity. As I got older, I realized stopped looking so far, like standing back and looking, engage as well. And so I went into college, I did psychology, but I thought I wanted to be a businessman. And I worked for an organization that went through a strike, and I ended up learning how to I learned mediation as a tool, I guess you will. And that was so much fun to me. just trying to figure out how to come to some sort of consensus in what everybody wants. And the psychology courses were great. But when I was in college, I happened upon an event that was really pretty earth-shattering for me. There was a woman who was contemplating her life, if you will, and there was 2 EMT workers there trying to talk with her. It didn't turn out great, and just the look on their face, I was like, I never want to experience that. And just the experience altogether, I thought, that's too close. And so I just kept pursuing business and then kept ending up in these discussions of, how do we help you get from one place to the next, and mediation and things like that.
So you're saying when you saw those EMTs, you didn't want to be in that situation?
I did not want to be that close
right.
with somebody who was contemplating something that serious that ended that poorly. I saw that hurt, and I thought, I never want to be that close to that. But then my master's degree is from Dallas Seminary. And so I started thinking, well, I'll go to seminary, but it's really expensive. So I'll choose a track that maybe you could pursue professionally. And I avoided the counseling courses for a very long time and got all of my Bible and theology in. And then when I started my first counseling class, I was like, where has this been all my life?
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I just loved it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that was that's been over 30 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I was always fascinated with, when I got my PhD, it was 72 hours plus one. I took one extra class, so 75 hours. But those seminary MAs or whatever, the MDivs are forever. They're so long, and you can only take 3 courses, 9 hours at a time. It's just forever and ever.
Yeah.
When I was in my master's program at ACU, I kind of ran out of classes, and I took 2 mediation classes, and I just really did not like that. I didn't like it at all. I mean, I got through the class, I made an A or whatever, but I was just like, this is not for me at all.
Really?
So it's awesome that there's people out there who are like, you get jazzed about all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm so curious why you didn't love it.
I just did not like, I didn't like, I felt like I was pulling teeth, because we do these role plays or whatever, and they have these interests and they have these interests. And I'm just like, I don't know what about it I did not like, but I did not like it. And maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe I felt like I was forcing both sides, like a bad compromise or something like that, like where both parties lost or something. I don't know, but I just did not enjoy it. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're going through there. You're going to write a new book of the Bible, and you get out of seminary. You start counseling a little bit. Mm-hmm. So what'd you say the very first foray into counseling was?
The first was my first course.
Okay.
But after I left seminary, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So while I was there, I was blessed, lucky enough to find a job that would take me before I had my degree.
Yeah.
So I worked with young people, like teenagers, mostly guys, who were kicked out of school. Like they were put in alternative schools. Okay. So I helped walk them through life skills, kind of learning how to make better choices. From there, I went to a residential program and started there as a therapist, ended up being the director of the therapeutic part of it. And then that was in Colorado. And then we moved back to Texas like a year or so later. And I started my practice, and that's been almost 22 years ago.
God,
Yeah.
22 years.
Yeah.
You're not that old.
No.
You can't.
Started when I was 5.
Yeah, that's right. This is impossible. Come on. Yeah. So you go there, and did you like that specialization of young men, or how do you see that trajectory?
In my mind, I was a lot younger then, and their issues made sense to me.
Right.
And who is it? Mark Twain that said, if you enter into a toad swallowing contest, swallow the largest one first.
Okay. I don't know that quote, but that's awesome. Yeah.
And that's to me what it was, because usually boys, young teenage guys aren't really interested in the softer side of things, if you will.
Sure.
They're not interested in why they're doing what they're doing. And so I thought this is going to be Everest. So let's climb it first,
Yeah.
and everything else will seem reasonable.
Yeah.
And they were a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from them.
That's cool.
And with teenagers come stressed out parents.
Yeah.
So worked a lot and even wrote some on parenting, wrote a parenting book and curriculum. And with stressed parents come really frictional marriages. So worked a lot with marriage work. And from there, most of my research and most of my publications are around like the chronic state of mental illness, so like chronic depression, and so those things that people call intractable or treatment resistant. I hate that label, and so everything in me wants to push against it and say, nobody's treatment resistant. Like, as long as you're willing to work, I'm willing to work alongside you.
Okay.
So let's figure this out together.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to leave you on the side of the road. Like, let's keep pushing. So that's kind of the pathway, I would say.
Cool. What's like right now, what's the landscape of therapy? I'm not in that world at all. I've got a few friends who are in that world. And so what does that look like right now?
Gosh, that's a big.
After COVID,
Yeah.
all the shutdowns, and after COVID, I heard a lot just through the grapevine about, there was a huge need, and then maybe the need wasn't met. And I don't know. What is that like right now?
So there's 4 times as many therapists as there were, 5 years ago, I think.
Really?
Yeah, the market is saturated, or it is saturating.
Okay.
But mental health is declining at an alarming rate. So what does the landscape look like from my viewpoint is that I don't know that therapy as it is as effective as it perhaps needs to be.
Interesting.
I know that's
That's a big statement.
It is a
Wow.
big statement.
Wow.
And hopefully it's not too big of a line in the sand.
What? Why? Why do you think?
Because I think we're focused on everybody else.
Okay.
I think that when
All
people
right.
come into therapy,
Yeah.
we talk about my mom has bad boundaries, my kids are not behaving,
Yeah.
my wife spends too much, my husband doesn't pay attention to me. But the person that they overlook is them. And they're the one who's in distress.
All right.
They're the one who's struggling. But I think oftentimes we come to therapy to try to fix our environment, and we just don't have that power. We have influence,
Sure.
but we do not have that power.
Which is a great foray into your book. So tell us about your book. What's the acrostic? What does that mean?
So, WAIT, Where Am I in This, is the book. The WAIT is the acronym for Where Am I in This? Because, hey, I'm in a field that has nothing but acronyms, so I had to come up with one.
Okay.
But it also represents the pause. It's the slowing down and evaluating. Where do I show up in this situation? Not globally. That's too overwhelming. And oftentimes people will say, oh, it's who am I? You can ask that question, but that's not the question that I'm asking people to ask. It's just, where am I in this situation? What do I think? What do I feel? What do I believe? And what am I experiencing? Because all too often, as I said, we think, well, he wants this or she wants that. And if they would, then I could. But it's really slowing down and understanding, what is it that I need in this moment? And can I give it to myself? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Me and Krista went through the church's re-engage marriage deal. And you have a lot of time to think about each lesson. You know, it's very methodical. You have to answer all the questions and do all the things. And so maybe it was 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through, I made this little thing, and it's like, it's this little change over here, accept over here. And then I drew this thing up here, and I thought, like, these are positive, optimistic, happy things, and then these are like negative things. And there's a way to do it, like change happy and accept happy, or change bad and accept bad. And so that was kind of my, and nobody did that. I was just kind of like sketched it out, but it was all about like me and just accepting, accepting what I can accept. Especially, I mean, I don't know your exact parenting journey, but there's a lot of things about parenting where you're like, I guess I'm gonna have to accept this.
Yes.
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 So we're connected to some young parents, and they are like ready to, and it's great. It's great what they're doing. They're like ready to go, ready to change the world and do all this stuff. But then as you go through parenting, there's a lot of things that you just have to accept. And so you literally cannot change that other person. So so according to your book, you're saying like, where am I in this? I'm like, I guess I have to accept this, like radical acceptance of whatever. But I guess the wisdom is like knowing, it's the quote, knowing which one is which. So for sure.
The interesting thing about what you drew, the acceptance and change, that's dialectical tension.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you think about righteousness and grace, justice and mercy, and you look at acceptance and change, it's like I have to accept where I am and be comfortable right where I am, but also understand that I want to move forward as well. And so it's like that dialectical tension that most things live with. And if we can move through that, I believe that is the crux of mental health, is that flexibility to accept where things are and to push toward something that you want to be different, as long as that different is you.
Yes, yeah, that's true for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, change me, accept other people, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would even say accept you.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I was listening to your book, and I was thinking about Washington. They say that General Washington was a master of battle because he was really good at accepting reality, seeing reality and accepting reality, and not being frustrated that this is reality. There's a survival book that I read, and one of the key phrases was, it kept saying like, be here now, like be here now. And so that's definitely a where am I in this?
Oh yeah.
And that's even a location word instead of an identity word. So, okay. So take me back 100 years. If I'm struggling with depression, anxiety, trauma in 1926, what do I do?
It depends. If you have money,
okay,
you would probably be seeing a Freudian analyst, and you would be laying on is it a chaise lounge? You'd be laying on
that's right.
You'd be tossing your head back with your, hand on your head, and you'd be thinking about your parents and your relationship to your mother and your father and all of that. If you didn't have money, you were just going to be gutting it out.
Or drink.
Right.
Right. Some other coping mechanism.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a Seinfeld bit, and it's comedians in cars. It's Brian Regan and Seinfeld, and they're talking about, are you sitting down? And I always think about these old, like, people fainting or whatever. I'm like, who are these people who fainted? They were laying on the lounge chairs.
Yeah.
Like, what was going on back then? I guess it was very overwhelming. So 100 years ago, I was struggling with this stuff. And even Freud, I don't know anything about Freud, but Freud, do you blame that on other people, essentially, or no? What does that look like?
Okay, so I may get into the weeds, so pull me out if I do. Somewhat. It depends on who's guiding you through it, which is why I think that our landscape has it's a little treacherous right now. But you could, because you're looking at it that, well, because of my relationship to my mother, this is why I am the reason that I am, or I am why I am.
Right.
If a young boy wets the bed, they're thinking, oh, well, it's his relationship and the stress to his mother, and it's the stress of how he sees that. And so it's like, well, maybe the consequences just were such that they didn't bother him. And, in the 1920s, there was the emergence of behavioral therapy, and there was that war going on. I mean, gentle war, but war nonetheless.
War, what do you mean?
There was behaviorism, where it's all about consequences. And then there was the Freudian look. Again, if you were wealthy, you were going to see an analyst, because analysts, you see them. And it's different now, but back then you would have seen somebody 3-4 years, a couple of times a week.
Interesting.
And it's not cheap.
Wow, yeah.
Right? And so...
Are we back to behavioral things? Because it seems like when people talk about behavior, some of their first questions are like, what's your nutrition like? What are your habits like? I don't know.
Yeah, I
or is that what that means? I don't know if that's what that, okay.
That's what
All
that,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
And that was the emergence of it, was around that time.
Okay.
And right in probably the 1970s is when the cognitive behavioral therapy kind of came online. We were kind of getting everything all stirred up. And so, yeah, I think that it's, there's a great thread of behaviorism that runs through therapy today.
Okay.
And granted, the cognitive behavioral therapy is the easiest one, or has been the easiest one to research. Okay. And so it really has taken over the field by storm.
Okay. So what did we misunderstand about mental health care 25, 50, 100 years ago in your view?
I think fundamentally probably less than we believe.
Okay.
I think that there were some really good threads that ran through. Okay. But, back in, what would it have been, the 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere in there, maybe the 20s, we just thought that the brain, that our mind was just a black box, and it was just inputs in, inputs out.
Yeah.
Well, now we see, it's one of the most complex organs of our body, right? So I think we misunderstood that. I just think that we didn't have the symphony of what goes on in our minds.
There are a lot of people online talking about neuroplasticity. Mm-hmm. And it's really fascinating. So your brain can stretch just like a muscle or grow, just like doing different things. 2 Aprils ago, I got a horse trough in the backyard and started doing, I don't think I've talked to you since then, but I started doing a cold plunge, but my cold plunge just started in April. And so April was chilly, that April, 2 Aprils ago. And then I went through the summer. Well, that's dumb because it's like hot. Yeah. But then I went all the way, and I was just doing ambient. So I went all the way through the winter. And I went through, we had that huge snowstorm in late January, like ice, and it was 32.8. And I got in for a minute. So my rule is if it's 45 or below, I just do a minute. Mm-hmm. But usually I do 3 minutes, up to my lips, earlobes and lips or whatever, just sit there and the pumps go and everything. But what's been fun about it is it stretches me, mm-hmm. and I was not comfortable, and I'm still not that comfortable. But I just think about neuroplasticity and trying to stretch my brain and think new thoughts about. I was walking with a friend and I was like, hey, let's explore new thoughts about this. Let's talk about this in a totally different way.
I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not a therapist though, and I'm not going to do mediation.
But yet you could be here. You see, there's so much there.
Oh, I don't want to do this. Was there a time when therapy could actually do more harm than good? You think? Can you point back to a time in the past? Or even a current time?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know you don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but
I don't. And I love this profession. And I really believe that I believe most everybody who goes into this profession really does have a heart to help people change. But I think that the way that therapy, no matter when, could do more damage than good is when we point people externally and we don't search our own souls. And so I don't know that I would put that to a specific time. There was a time when they were doing lobotomies for really hyper-emotional people. So that's very damaging. There was even a Nobel Prize winner for that. And we just kind of quietly walked away from that. No, we didn't walk that one back. So perhaps that time, but from my vantage point, it really is about making sure that the person who you're sitting with really has the opportunity to understand who they are, how they show up to situations so that they have agency for change.
Because if you sit down with somebody and they're pointing to other people and you're like, yeah, you're right, this is really bad, then you haven't helped anything, right? Or little.
I would say you could even possibly make it worse. I mean, with my kids being, growing into adulthood, I see so many families that are being cut off from their young adult children. And I think that that oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, that is an externalization of boundaries that if I set a boundary for me and, we show up to an event and I say, hey, I really don't want to talk politics. And you bring up politics. And I say, hey, Joseph, I don't want to go there. And you keep coming. Then I think the way that we have it set up now is you're a toxic person. I'm not going to spend any time around you. But my question is, yes, my boundaries were blown past. So what do? I'm going to leave the situation. I may say, hey, it's great to see you. Hey, you know what? I don't feel comfortable talking about this. We can change the topic, or I'll see you soon. Where I know I have agency over me instead of I'm never going to any event where you're going to be there.
Right.
And that's where I think that where we are now, if we're not careful, do we create a lot of boxes for ourselves where we don't have contact with we have contact with very few people. And then it turns into, hopefully this isn't an inflammatory term, but then it turns into an echo chamber where I only hear the things that I'm accustomed to, which you're talking about neuroplasticity. It's like when you're going on this walk, let's talk about this differently. Let's look at things differently. I love having people in my life that see the world 180 degrees different than I do, because I want to learn from them. Why do you see, tell me what you see. Yeah. Tell me why you see it that way. That's what intrigues me. I could spend this whole time quizzing you about why you don't want to be a therapist.
I don't like this.
Because it's so intriguing to me as to how different people are created, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's funny to me that people want to cut off people who are inflammatory to them. When you have a baby, that baby is going to break every boundary that you have. They're going to, most people don't get pooped on. And that baby's going to poop on you and throw up on you and yell at you and do all the things. And you don't cut it off. You keep, you just keep going with that kid. So I don't know. You
keep spending money on them. They very rarely return it.
They just don't. Yes. Mm-hmm. There's a story, there's a Jocko story where he said there was a prisoner of war camp, and it was these U.S. soldiers, and they were put in these teeny tiny little prison cells or whatever. And if what you did bothered me, it was my fault. And that's a pretty trippy a pretty trippy thought, where if I'm bothered by it, that's my deal. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And that's not our society at all right now.
No, and I think it can go too far.
Well, of course, yeah.
But
I
also think that there's a lot of health in that.
Yeah.
If that bothers me, what do I do with me? Yeah. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I try to get my students to think about this as well. I say, if I'm up in front of the class and I say something that is frustrating, at least frustrating, or at most inflammatory to you, say just hear me out. I bet that you won't even agree with you in 20 years. Oh, there's a bunch of things that you think right now that you're going to totally change your mind on. And so I say, just everybody, everybody relax. And, politics or religion or whatever you talk about, especially with your kids, you're going to have to be at peace with, I guess that's just that's how they see it. And that's okay. Yep. For sure. Yep. What could you've been doing this for almost 30 years. What could you do for a client today that you simply couldn't do when you first started? What's better than ever? What have you've seen your personal career? What are you able to help them with that you couldn't help them with when you first started?
I would say it's sort of twofold. One is the trauma treatment that we have now with EMDR and ART, it's EM is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Okay.
And ART stands for accelerated resolution therapy. And it involves eye movements, reprocessing the events that occurred. And I've seen people early in my career, you would have somebody come in who had experienced some form of a horrific tragedy. And it would take, so much time to process through that. With ART, the accelerated resolution therapy, I've seen people 1-2 sessions.
Really?
Where they've taken a horrific tragedy, like the loss of a child, and they've been able to repurpose it through their body and in their mind. Now, they don't stand up and say, well, I have no feelings about that anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's horrific. It's the unthinkable. But they have the ability then to grieve and move through their day. And I didn't have that 30 years ago. Yeah. The other part of that is, or the second piece that I would say is, and this is going to sound strange, so hang with me, everybody, but it's the permission to be who I am in the therapy room with who I treat. Because this is
who you are,
who I am.
Who you, okay.
Yes,
all right.
Right. That's
okay.
what I said. This is going to sound odd.
Yeah.
But, chronic depression it's about 1974, there was a theory created by who is my mentor. It's called Cognitive Behavioral Analysis Systems of Psychotherapy. So CBASP for short. And no, it's not a seafood order. It's not sea bass.
Not that.
But it's an interpersonal exchange. It's an interpersonal theory with learning acquisition in the midst. And so you learn through the relationship with me. And, I'm a pretty full contact human being, and I love the back and forth. And so when people come into my office, you're getting me. You're getting my thoughts, and I'll tell you, hey, these are my thoughts. I'll hand you the trash, you can throw it away.
Yeah.
But this is where I am, and this is my experience of how you're treating me. When someone comes in and interrupts and overtalks, I'll step back and say, hey, is there room for me in this conversation? Because right now, I don't see where I fit. 9 times out of 5, and yes, I do math, they experience that in their home life, in their social life with peers. And it's not socially correct or proper to call somebody out on it until you get incredibly frustrated. Most people are going to call them out and break relationship. But in this interpersonal theory, it's stay in relationship and call them out at the same time, using me as the experience, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so this interpersonal weaving, now that comes with great discipline. It's not just because you're irritating me or not because this subject is boring to me. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's these themes. Honestly, it's just like parenting. Yeah. And so being able to weave that in.
But that puts a lot of effort and what a burden proof on you to make sure that you're checking them, to make sure that you're a player in this whatever chess game. Mm-hmm. Sure.
It does, but that's what I love about it.
Yeah,
is because it is that 3D chess sort of a piece where we are forming a relationship, like it or not. I mean, you're coming on a pretty regular basis to talk through some very intimate issues, and we're going to, in a very disciplined and professional way, but we're going to walk through this in a really interpersonal exchange, and why not learn from it?
I'm not good at mediation. I am good at challenges. I'm good at physical challenges. I like physical challenge, like going to the mountains or doing something even alone. I love that. Like it's a challenge, it's dangerous, it's kind of scary and something weird might happen or whatever. But it's harder for me to think about emotional stuff as a challenge. And so is it proper? Do you ever do this where you're like, this, like you need to think about this as like burpees. Like this could make you better. Like this really could make you better. This pain.
Yes, as long as the burpees don't bring you till you have rhabdo.
Right. right. Yeah. Where it's injury.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Major injury. Yeah.
And so it is finding that midpoint between those two places. But yes, I love analogies are my favorite. And there's often, I believe we're given the physical as an analogy for the metaphysical. And there's often times where it's like, okay, you are about to do a PR, a personal record bench press here. There's one time not long ago, I had a gentleman stand up in my office, and he had just done such great work. I was like, dude, that was like a PR deadlift right there. Like we high-fived and out he goes. So yeah, I do see it that way.
And that's good for him, and that's good for you for a success story. That's incredible. So in your book, you talked about, I think it was 60% of, you heard this fact where 60% of issues in marriages are unresolvable. So talk about that.
Yeah, it's 69%, almost 70% of the things we fight about, there's really no good resolution.
Like what? Give me an example. I can think of examples, but I want you to think. Tell me some examples.
I think, I want to go to the beach. Well, I want to go to the mountains.
Yeah.
I want a 2-story home. Well, I want a 1-story. I want a pool. Don't want a pool. It's those types of things.
Or it could be even way more serious. I want another baby. I don't want another baby.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's tough. So walk us through, where am I in this? How do you coach somebody through something like that?
So instead of quitting, when I read that stat, I started looking at what's the anecdote for that. And that stat came from the Gottman Institute. John Gottman, he and his wife Julie Gottman, they're phenomenal researchers. They do longitudinal research on marriage and relationships, and they actually began to see. They took these couples that were had already filed for divorce, and they called them in, and said, "Hey, could you guys come in? We're not trying to do couples therapy. We just want to try something. Would you be open to it?"
That's interesting.
And a bunch of, I don't remember exactly the number, but a large enough number of couples came in and walked through this with them. And what they did was they said, don't solve it, just listen. Just be curious. Ask them, what do they want? Why do they want that? You know what they found? It was upward as much as, I think it was 43, but don't quote me on that. Go look that up. But somewhere in the 40% range, couples did not, in fact, divorce after that. And that's not what they were going for. They were just trying to see, could they get couples to listen to each other once they were at the breaking point. And then almost half of them did not follow through with a divorce. And so what I always say is you have to start with curiosity. When it falls into that 69, 70% category, you have to start with curiosity. Because curiosity brings you to a different understanding. And when you have a different understanding of the issue oftentimes, not always, oftentimes floats over to that 31% where there is a resolution.
They even talk about, Arthur Brooks is out there talking, a lot of people have talked about this, but how online dating doesn't really work and pairing doesn't really work because you find you, and you don't want you. You want the person who complements you.
Right.
But that's impossible to find on an app or whatever. So even a healthy app, and so like when you're in conflict, you're talking about staying curious. That frustration of what I see just pops up, and so it's hard to, when you start asking questions, you start seeing around that, I guess.
You do, and the reason why where am I in this is that I have to start asking questions of me first.
Okay.
Where am I? Just pause. Where am I? What am I thinking, feeling, experiencing, believing? And then what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing and believing? And then what I've seen, one of my favorite things that happens in my office is when a couple finally stops talking about each other, they come in and talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And they do that with each other. You watch that body language that's poised and ready to just pounce, that defensive posture, just soften. And I didn't realize that about you. Wow. I love that because I sit back and I don't say very much at all. And they're like, do you want to get in on this? And I look at them and say, no, y'all are doing just fine. Keep going.
That's awesome.
But I think that's at the core, is that exploration, that curiosity starts with you, then it moves to them and what it does for you. I've even seen, just like with that study that the Gottmans did, people learn to fall in love with each other all over again. Because you're right, we don't want us. How often do people end up in marriage therapy when they're upset for all the same reasons, or are upset with all the same reasons and traits that they married that person because of?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You find somebody who is different than you, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Shoot, I was going to say something. Has it become more practical? Has therapy become more practical? What are ways that are more practical? Oh, here's what I was going to say before you answer that. Mm-hmm. One of my very favorite books, maybe my favorite book ever, is Screwtape Letters. Mm. And the whole premise is it's a demon writing to his junior demon. And Screwtape is saying, don't let the saint think of himself as I am moving into temptation. And so it always makes me think of, like, is it helpful to name the things that you're like, oh, that's frustration. Oh, that's this. Oh, that's anger. I don't know if that's helpful. Where you see it as almost like a thing, like a dog that comes into the room where you're like, oh, that's that. And then that's separate from me, and I can kind of like think of it over there instead of just being in here. I don't know.
Oh, it's tremendously helpful.
Yeah.
Because when our amygdala, which is our fire alarm in our brain, it's a part of our brain that's the threat detector. The prefrontal cortex, which is our adult brain, if you will, and I'm just using common terms here, they are on a pulley system.
Okay.
So the more of a threat we detect, the more of our prefrontal cortex starts to turn down and go offline, because we're not going to reason through that threat. Okay. We're going to fight, flight, or flee, or freeze.
Right.
We're adding
the fourth one.
Yeah. But when you name things, there's some research out of 2007, somewhere in there. I think the guy's name is Lieberman. That if you name what you are experiencing, because you're using your prefrontal cortex to name it, that you're starting that pulley system just a little bit to balance out. Anger. Okay, I see that. Now, it's like you began the reasoning process and balancing things out. Yeah. So yeah, it's extremely helpful to name what's going on.
I love Psalm 23. It's one of my favorites, but it says that he's having to do things in the presence of enemies. Mm. And I like that thought of, like, you're going to have to do the things in the presence of, like naming your I think Churchill called depression the black dog. He named it. Yeah. So you're going to have to do whatever in a healthy way in the presence of, like, these things standing around. You got to play hurt, you got to do it. So I asked you about things being practical. Are things more practical now? And because I mentioned a cold bath or like a run or things like that, maybe they wouldn't do that in 1974. I'm not sure. I don't know if they would tell you to go do something. I don't know. Or when you first started, was it less practical? Was it just thinking through things?
I think since probably the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s to today, I think there's been this converging of the practical and the emotional. And I think that when they're woven together, I think that's where, that to me is where the money spot is. Dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT, is a prominent theory in my field. And it is for people who are very under-regulated. They color way outside of the box on everything.
Okay.
So it's teaching them regulation skills. It's teaching them mindfulness is the core, emotion regulation, distress tolerance, and interpersonal effectiveness, so that you don't kick back off that dysregulation type stuff with being ineffective interpersonally. And that the dialectical is the D, which it's the whole acceptance and change. That's the motto of DBT.
Okay.
And
I set you up perfect.
You really did.
So
I saw that. I was like,
Yes.
oh, I love this. But the behavioral part are the behavioral skills. Like when a person is experiencing panic attacks, one of the things that they can do is, that mammalian dive reflex that we have right here underneath our eyes, is to go put your face in a cold bowl of water. And it just resets your neurology a little bit. Putting a cold, like an ice cube on your wrist. And so I do think that there are certain things that we can do. The one thing that I do see that I don't love is that we're trying to biohack our way out of our experiences. And we can't do that. If you look at, I don't mean to create an editing issue for you here, but
Okay.
is it cool if I bring in spirituality and all
Yeah,
that?
no, that's great. Yeah.
If you look at Genesis 3,
Yeah.
and you see, that's when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God comes back to the garden. What's the first question God had for Adam? I'm an Irishman. My first question would be, what have you done?
Yeah.
A scorched earth.
Yeah.
His first question to Adam was, Adam, where are you? And I think that was a call. I believe it's not a location question. It's a call to introspect. What happened here? How did we rupture our connection from here? And if we biohack all of our emotions, where are you? You rupture you from you. And if you fast forward, let's stay in the garden for a second. God asked Adam, where are you? Well, I was naked and ashamed, so I hid. Well, who told you were naked? Did you eat from the tree I asked you not to eat from? He says, well, it was that woman you made, all externalizing.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Eve, what happened? Well, it was that serpent you made. Now, feel free to disagree, but I believe that if Adam and Eve would have slowed down and internalized that question and really shown up them, I don't think God would have asked them to leave the garden. Because he said, out of the garden you must go, lest you eat from this tree of life and live in this place, meaning ruptured from our connection forever. So it was really more of I believe, it was really more of a preservation of the potential for reuniting in relationship.
Huh. Interesting. That's cool. That also happens in Moses with the burning bush. Here I am, Moses, Moses, here I am. That also happens with Isaiah in Isaiah chapter 6, where he is the man of unclean lips. And then he's purified. And then right after that, who will I send? And he says, here I am, send me. Yeah. So it's that
knowledge.
Location. It's that location, here I am, each of those times. Interesting.
And then the last of that, if I may,
Yeah, sure.
is Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Jesus speaks in parables when asked questions. He does not answer questions direct, save one time. And it's when a Pharisee attorney comes to Jesus and says, okay, Rabbi, of all of these laws, there's 613. They knew that as two good Hebrew scholars. Of all of these laws, which one's the greatest? And Jesus cuts through the smoke and says, love. Love is the greatest. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. The second one is much like the first, that you would love your neighbor. And that's where we tend to stop. But he said, love your neighbor how? The way you love yourself.
Yourself, as yourself, yep.
And I look at that and I believe that is an inverted sentence. When you think about the fact that you love God first, he's your true north. You have values. If you don't have a relationship with God, you have a value set, you have a worldview. Period. I mean, everybody does.
Right,
And it
yeah.
comes from a collection of something. But for people who believe in God, their worldview is God. That's their value set. That then informs you of who you are. That then you inform who you are to the other people as you connect to them. I believe that was Jesus giving a big chiropractic adjustment to the whole system of answering that one question. Because come on, that was a deposition question. He was trying to nail Jesus to the wall there.
Of course.
And he answered that one.
It's interesting you bring that up because we have always heard that taught as there's two parties in those two commands, but there's actually another party. It's the third party, and it's
You.
me. Yeah, interesting. I just listened to this book a little bit, but Jordan Peterson talks about people who don't finish their own meds, like their prescription.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor gives you a prescription, you're supposed to take it for 10 days, you take it for 4.5, and you're better, and then you stop.
Mm-hmm.
But he cites a study where if it's your loved one or if it's your dog, you'll finish the whole thing. And he points to that idea that we don't love ourselves. We don't care for ourselves. So super interesting. So I want to transition to another idea in your book. In the communication field, there was this guy in the 70s and 80s, and his name was Fisher. And he said that for the longest time, from Aristotle till the 70s, they said that we're logical creatures. And if we just get more information, then we're better. Mm-hmm. This guy came along, Walter Fisher, and he said that, no, we're not logical, we're storytelling animals. Mm-hmm. And so our highest thing is biography. And it's not good reasons, but it's a good story. And so you talk a lot about, I was listening to your book and I'm like, oh, and by the way, whoever EQ'd, whoever mixed your voice is like the best. Like you've got a great voice anyway, but I was like, man, this voice is incredible. Lee. But the idea of the narrative is so interesting because you're telling a story about what's going on. So tell me about that. Like I'm here in this situation and tell me about the story.
As far as, sorry, I'm not.
Well, I don't know. Like you probably see your clients. Mm-hmm. Are they telling a wrong story? They're telling an incorrect story. They're telling an inflammatory story, or maybe even an example of some time when somebody just was not telling the right story.
I think, to me, the most interesting story is the collection, the mashup, the collage of how did I get here?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
how did this moment occur? I think about being in a group of people. I was thinking about this the other day. I was sitting with a group of people, and I was thinking about something about this other person.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I wonder what they're thinking. And I was thinking, how interesting would that be if they were thinking about this other party over here that was sitting with us, that like I was thinking about what they were thinking about what this person over here was thinking, and this person over here was thinking about something completely outside of the circle.
Yeah.
And how we're all focused on something outside of us and what's truly going on in the moment.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Because I was watching, we were all kind of standing in a little bit of a circle, and I knew that this friend kind of felt like they were always sidelined.
Yeah.
And I was watching them kind of, their body language, they were kind of scooting out of the circle.
Interesting.
And I was like, I wonder why you're doing that. Yeah. Because every half step you take back, who's removing whom?
Yeah. You're actually removing yourself from the situation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
and
right. So
to me, the beauty of it all, of the story that we are storytelling beings, is that whatever story they're telling themselves is pushing them. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Sure. Yeah. Well, this is a simple story, but this was probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I was asleep, and it was like 1 a.m, and the neighbor's dog started barking, and it just would not stop. It was really weird. This never happens. We have a good relationship with our neighbor, but I was just like, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. I have a fan, the fan's on, I put in earplugs, and I can just hear him just barking. It was driving me crazy. I was like, dang, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, go knock on their door or whatever. So I thought, Well, maybe something's in the backyard. Something is in the backyard, like a fox or a raccoon or something. So I'm going to get my flashlight. So I get my flashlight. I go out the back door into the backyard, and I look right with my flashlight. That's my dog. That's my dog right there. That's literally not their dog at all. That's my dog. And I'm getting ready to sue these people over this situation. And that was literally my dog. And he's never left outside overnight. And so he's just like going nuts. And then finally I let him in and I was like, oh man, dang. That was the literal wrong story. Anyway.
Yeah.
So sometimes surely, you come across people where you're like, that's not the right story at all. I don't know. All right. Is there anything we left out? Like, what do you want to talk about? Is there a good, like, there's a ton of good books coming out, right? Obviously your book, I'll post it on the socials and everything, but like what else? What do you want to promote? What do you want to, like, in your perfect world, what are people doing to stay healthy? Maybe like even before they come to you, dipping their face in cold water, obviously,
right?
But yes.
What are people doing to stay healthy? First of all, I would say as a big grouped challenge, stop overlooking yourself.
Okay.
Stop overlooking yourself physically. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Do you move? Do you drink enough water? Do you eat foods that nourish your body, that build your brain?
Yep.
Because our brain is a beautiful organ, and it's roughly every 4-ish years, it repurposes itself, right?
Like in a small season, like it.
It takes about 4 years to repurpose. Like, our skin is every 27 days.
Yeah.
Our brain, it's somewhere in the 4 to 6 year range.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, steward it well. Like, it lasts with you forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steward well your emotional self.
Yeah.
Understand, like, what are your preferences?
Yeah.
Don't judge them.
Yeah.
Just understand them.
Yeah.
And, okay, maybe you're a reptile lover, and maybe you hate reptiles, but you love fuzzy animal creatures. I don't know. Maybe you missed the pet chip. It doesn't matter. Nobody's right or wrong in that.
Yeah.
Yes, there is right or wrong. I'm not a relativist, but in that, like, just understand who you are.
Yeah.
Search through you and know how you were designed and put together, and celebrate that. I mean, quit trying. Somebody said to me the other day, I said, when we say round peg in a square hole, I said, all too often I find that it's an oval peg in a round hole that we keep trying to move it because it should fit, and we beat the fool out of both.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she goes, I would never wear pants that were 2 sizes too small. And I was like, hey, great analogy. Then get out of this relationship that's 3 sizes too small. Please.
Yeah.
Just know what fits.
Yeah.
And so that physically, emotionally, and spiritually, don't give up the quest. I feel like we are in this epistemological era of postmodernism where we've just left the whole Enlightenment. And I see so much carnage from that because not everybody is catching up to what that means. And there's a lot of deconstructing going on. And that's okay to deconstruct things as long as you reconstruct after.
As long as you put something in its place, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's okay to pull things apart. I mean, I remember my dad, who's been gone for, 19 years.
Wow.
When computers became a thing, he got a computer and he just starts taking it apart. I was like, what are you doing?
It apart? Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Holy cow.
And he's like, well, I got to figure it out.
We don't do this, Dad.
Right. This is bad.
Yes.
You're acting like a toddler. But then he put it all back together, and the man knew his way around a computer better than I did.
Yeah.
And I thought he deconstructed it to the point that he understood it, put it back together, and then started clicking around that mouse on everything. This was back in the day when you had an independent mouse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so it's that place of finding where you are in all of these things, physically, emotionally, spiritually, philosophically, politically, and then being peaceful with you so you have space to be peaceful with others.
Yeah.
Because we need our world to reconcile. And we're not in a place right now where we're going to reconcile if we do not know how we show up to each event.
Right.
We're going to be defensive and cranky.
That's a great way to end. Dr. Lee Long, thanks for coming by, man. We did
Oh
it.
my gosh,
We
yes.
finally did it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.